Have you ever wondered what a thought in your mind and the stability of an entire society have in common? Well, we're about to explore a universal blueprint that explains exactly that, why some systems thrive while others just collapse.
So think about it. Why do these super advanced AIs suddenly hallucinate and just make things up? Or what causes a society that seems perfectly stable to suddenly start to fracture and fall apart? You'd think these are completely different problems, right? But what if they're not? What if they are all just symptoms of the exact same underlying issue?
Well, it turns out the answer is the same for all of them, and it's surprisingly simple. They all collapse under the weight of unresolved contradictions, tensions and pressures they just can't handle anymore. And that is the core idea we are going to unpack today. So if collapse is the problem, what's the solution? Well, it's a universal process for creating order out of chaos, a constant cycle called the function-form loop. You could say this is the hero of our story.
So what exactly is this function-form loop, or FFL for short? Think of it as the engine of stability. A system faces some kind of pressure, a contradiction or a problem, and that's the function. To resolve it, the system creates a stable structure, a solution, and that's the form. That new form then shapes how the system responds to pressure in the future. It's this constant, endless cycle of learning and adapting.
I really like how this slide breaks it down. Think of function as pressure. It's the active process, the doing part of dealing with a problem right now. Form, on the other hand, is like memory. It's the solution you found now crystallized into a rule, a law, or even a physical thing. It's literally the past shaping the future.
And this loop always follows 4 distinct steps. The source material calls it a symbolic cognitive process, or SCP. So first you hit a contradiction, a problem. Second, the system works internally to find a stable solution. Third, that solution gets compressed into a simple, reusable symbol, like a rule of thumb. And fourth, you reuse that rule over and over again. That's how systems learn and adapt.
And the traffic light is the perfect way to make this concrete. The contradiction? Cars crashing. That's the immediate pressure, the function. The solution gets compressed into a simple, symbolic form. A red light means stop. This form is then reused to regulate all future traffic. But, and this is so important, it's not static. If the form starts failing because too many people run the red, it has to evolve. Maybe the red light gets longer or you add cameras. It adapts.
And this is where it gets really mind-bending. The traffic light is just one example. This pattern is everywhere. I mean, look at this slide. In biology, a mutation is a contradiction that gets resolved into a stable gene. In society, social tension gets resolved into a legal precedent. This process seems to be a fundamental building block of reality itself, all the way from physics up to civilizations.
But this powerful process isn't foolproof. Not at all. It has limits. And understanding where it breaks is actually just as important as understanding how it works in the first place.
This quote from the Unified Intelligence Theory really gets to the heart of it. It says, intelligent systems rarely fail because they lack capability. They fail when pushed, when scaled, stressed, or forced to operate recursively beyond their structural limits. So failure isn't about not being smart enough. It happens when a system is pushed too hard, when it's forced to loop back on its own processes, to be recursive, beyond what its very structure can handle.
You see, the engine of this whole learning loop is recursion, the ability to reuse and modify your own rules. But that is a serious double-edged sword. Recursion amplifies both structure and error. It allows for incredible adaptation, sure, but it's also the source of catastrophic fragility.
So why does it break? Because these systems don't exist in a magical vacuum. They operate under real-world constraints. As you can see here, every operation costs energy. Memory isn't infinite, and all of this leads to the most important constraint, coherence. There's a hard limit to how much complexity a system can handle before its internal structure just starts to fall apart.
This leads to a critical threshold, a kind of tipping point. Up to a certain point, more recursion makes a system smarter and more adaptive. But once you cross that line, adding more complexity doesn't help. It does the opposite. It just amplifies chaos until the entire system shatters.
So, what do we do with this knowledge? This isn't just some abstract theory of failure. It's actually a blueprint for building stronger, more resilient systems.
The source material proposes a method called SCP engineering. It's a diagnostic tool. The goal isn't to build a system that never fails, because that's impossible. The goal is to build a system that understands its own failure modes so it can adapt before it collapses.
And they give us a clear 4-step blueprint to do just that. Step 1, Identify the hidden tensions the system is trying to avoid. Step 2, map out how it's currently staying stable. Step 3, locate the core rules and habits it's reusing. And finally, Step 4, redesign those rules to better handle the real pressures it's facing.
What this all means is that we now have a practical framework for thinking about robustness. We can apply this lens to anything, from improving our own decision-making and breaking bad habits to designing better organizations and more stable social systems. It makes the abstract actionable.
So let's end with this one final, powerful thought. If everything around us, every law of physics, every gene, every single idea, is simply a memory of a past contradiction that was successfully resolved, then it really begs the question, what are the great contradictions that we are resolving right now? And what new forms are we creating that will become the memories of the future?